Um, but in the meantime, I think we should be about ready to have Tim kick us off as soon as we know that Jimmy's on. And I will turn it over to Mr. Ledwine.
All right. Now, we hit everything in my speech, so you did a great job. Just please send your questions to the presenters in the chat, not the Q&A, but in the chat, and they will answer the questions during the last 15 minutes. The group will speak until 8:15. We'll have 15 minutes to answer the questions with Ellen Linares, who just spoke, and then Ellen will close on time at 8:30. So a couple of things to note, that we'll start every one of these at 7:30 a.m. promptly every time. So you may want to sign up before. Attendance is limited to 100. So please register early for all of our upcoming events. And I do want to talk about today's event. It is going to be recorded. If you're interested, please respond to me or to Tim Ledwine or Ellen or any member of CBEX. And our next event will be September 24th, when we'll host Anna Beavon Gravely, the Executive Director of the North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation. Anna is an expert on the election process, and some of you may recall that CBEX hosted a similar presentation 4 years ago, and it was phenomenal. So mark your calendars. Invitations are in your in baskets. And I think we're a little bit over on time. We are recording this, so I'm going to turn the screen over to Tim and Jimmy and William for their wisdom on business development in a pandemic and the new world we're in. Tim?
Good. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. And welcome, everybody. A virtual handshake. I want to just welcome you to the speaker event. We've got a great panel. When we met the other day, I was kind of bouncing off the wall. It's not often that you get surrounded by just this level of talent. And the interesting thing about our panel today is we came to the realization that there's really not a lot of overlap. There's a lot of synergies. So as we look at this new, I refuse to call it new normal, so we'll call it the now normal. And I don't think there's anything normal about it, so just to be clear. But, you know, as we look at the time that we're in right now and how do we reach out, get leads, do marketing, do inbound lead generation, and something that I talk about quite often is, when does marketing stop and sales start? Because there's that overlap, right? If you're looking at Venn diagrams or whatever, but there's that overlap. So today our panel will walk us down that path. We're very fortunate to have Ann Mayfield here with a full marketing view, background, academically, but more importantly to me, the work that she's done in the field, helping companies grow, get their branding, get their marketing strategy put together from a consultancy. And then William McKee with his digital marketing, we'll get a little bit into what was SEO, what is it now, how do we come with a strategy or a plan like Ann puts together, and then William implements to get that inbound lead generation going, as well as, you know, cleaning up a lot of other things. And then we have Jimmy Coleman, who's the new up and comer, who's worked with companies such as Northwestern Mutual and TikTok. And it's not every day you get, you know, just a trending company like a TikTok that says, come in and help us. And then they say, wait, we want you to do the work too. And he totally changed direction because he was aware and listening to it. So with that, what I'd like to do as the moderator is try to step back, not be part of the discussion, but to let you hear from our panel. So we're going to start with Jimmy giving us about a 2-minute overview of who he is, what he does, and then we'll get into some questions for the panel. We'll start with Jimmy, we'll move into William, and then we'll wrap that part up with Ann, with each of them giving us about a 2-minute overview of them, their companies, and what they do. Jimmy?
Good morning, guys. Fired up to be here. Yeah, so my name is Jimmy Coleman, founder of Lead Baller and Grow and Give. Grow and Give is more of a consulting agency, and then we help companies fill their sales pipeline. Anytime a company is usually selling something that costs $50,000 and above or $1 million and above, we help them book more sales calls. And we started off just consulting companies on how to do that. And as I spoke with Dawn for a little bit yesterday, we just noticed a huge gap in the marketplace of going from teaching people something to getting them to actually doing it. So we built out a company called Lead Baller, where we actually do the work for companies, where we manage their LinkedIn profiles and help them implement the strategies that we would, once teach companies like TikTok and some of these larger companies that he just mentioned. So yeah, that's what we do. Companies reach out to me when they need to book more sales calls for very high ticket services.
Jimmy. William?
Good morning. I'm William McKee. It's good to see a lot of familiar names here. It's funny to be on this side of the speaker's podium. I'm usually working on the backside with CBEX hosting these events. So glad to be able to participate in this manner today. Those of you who know me, or those of you who don't, I should say, I'm a partner in Nomad Digital Marketing. We're a local digital marketing agency. Been around the Charlotte area for over 15 years. During that time, we've helped hundreds of companies generate thousands of leads and close millions of dollars in business. We do that through SEO, paid advertising, content marketing. We're a Google and HubSpot partner. Companies come to us when they're having trouble getting traffic coming to their website, when they're trying to get more of that traffic to actually convert, either into a sale for e-commerce or to leads for B2B. Or if they're just trying to track and optimize the work that's already going on. Sometimes I hear companies that are getting pummeled with daily emails that are 50-page reports, and they have no idea what that information is saying. And we help them to decipher that and make sense of, what do I do with this information? Kind of companies we typically work with are industrial marketers like Jimmy. It's B2B businesses. Typically, we're starting to do a little bit of B2B to C type business as well, which is where we're getting into the e-commerce. We can get into that as we talk.
Nice. Thank you, William. And if you'll kind of anchor us here and then tie this into what we talked about the other day of how the three of you, the synergies between all three of you at the end of your 2 minutes.
Sure. So I'm Ann Mayfield from Mayfield Consulting. We are a consulting agency. We do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of, we really work very much upfront with clients, trying to figure out what segments are best for them, what their best customer profile is, how do they target. We do a lot of market feedback to make sure we get that right. Then we go into positioning, we go into messaging. In fact, when we were meeting the other day, we were talking about how much of the time William and Jimmy, they really want that sort of all nailed down before we get into the nitty gritty of what William does, company does, and what Jimmy's company does. We also do a lot of PR. We do public relations. We've just won a whole ton of awards for 5 clients at the American Business Awards. We found that's a really good attention getter and has really paid off for some of our clients. So we do the whole gamut, except probably not the technical implementation that you'll hear from Jimmy and from William. So
good.
So, does that make sense? Or
yeah, no, that was perfect. Thanks, Ann. I appreciate it. And so if I use the words, this shouldn't be offensive. I mean, Ann to me is more the traditional marketer, but anything but traditional, because she is very current. So when I say that, it's not meant the way that it comes out, but she does the branding. She does, are the fonts the same? Is the website tied up? William and Jimmy, it was so refreshing to see all three people have the confidence to know that one can't succeed, or their success with their clients or their client success is minimized unless they have all three together. So like Jimmy and William are like, we get clients all the time that we send back and say, you've got to figure out the messaging, in a lot of these core pieces. So with that, Ann, can I come back to you? We talked briefly about sometimes marketing gets a bad rap because it can be a money pit. People, it's not inexpensive. It can be a place where people put their money, they don't get the results. They're like, hey, I hired you, my business didn't grow. You're like, oh, it's been 24 hours. I think a lot of that comes from the expectations that they have. And sometimes that hasn't been clearly laid out, because as a business culture, we are looking for more of an alignment of how do we do things and what's going to be, i.e. the return. Can you lay out kind of how that fits into the marketing world today?
Well, of course, the return is always important. My clients typically judge it on revenue growth. Yes, it's a return on investment, but it's also, they're very interested in revenue growth. And I think that's what you were getting at, Tim, which is how you measure marketing.
And also the days of hiring a marketer to come in and build a strategy and just hand you a binder and then you do it yourself, I think are waning a little bit. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. Partly because the implementation, you have so many choices. I mean, you can dump a whole bunch of money toward Jimmy. You can, in terms of implementation, you can dump a whole bunch of money toward William. Of course, they both would nod their head and say, yes, we would like that. And sometimes in marketing, you've just got to test certain things. But you have so many different skills nowadays that typically you've got to outsource different pieces of the sales and the marketing. And the marketing really has to support the sales. So I think the days of, we really say in my company that we really don't write any plans. It has to be labeled an action plan. It has to be prioritized. It has to be, this is the one that's most likely to work, plus this one, plus that one.
Right.
If you're developing content, it has to go over numerous distribution arenas. And so you really do have to be very careful about the implementation and understanding which are, because you have so many choices nowadays. I mean, 20 years ago, there were not that many choices in terms of implementation. Today, there are so many choices that you see here on the panel. So
perfect.
And you've really got to begin to figure out which is going to give you the greatest return. And sometimes you don't know, you obviously don't know all of it. So then you've got to test. So
right.
There's the planning and also the test. So, but we call anything that we write as an action plan. But the good news is if you do write it down and then you know, it will change in the first 6 months. And so then if you rewrite it after 6 months or 3 months or 1 month, if the change is that fast, then everybody's got a document that they can go, you know, they can say, okay, yeah, this is the plan. We tried this, didn't work. Let's try this, or let's tweak this, that type of thing. So we still do believe it's important to write it down, but you don't take the plan and shove it to the client.
Right. And you got it charted. So if this works, great. If not, we go here. And you've got a plan built out ahead of time. I love that. What I really liked the other day, Ann, is when you talked about what, 10, 15 years ago was that was huge. I mean, everything was voice of the customer. And I don't think we hear that very much anymore. And you brought that up in the assessment and the analysis of getting the voice of the customer and people on the street. So with that, I'm going to segue over to William, because I think we, to a certain extent, miss the voice of the customer now because we're looking for too trendy of information that, there's a saying that people want to be heard and understood. If everybody wants to be heard and understood, who's hearing and understanding? Are we focused on customer or client based? Are we getting the voice of the customer from our clients? And William, as I segue over to you, I've seen in application how important the selection of the right client is. So piggybacking off of what Ann said, can you define one, a kudos to you for implementing your own program in your own business. We've all heard about the contractor who has, he has a door and a screen and all these things that they need to get done, but they don't do it on their own home, right? We're out there busy doing it for everybody else. So kudos to you. And I think you're coming off of your third record year in a row, hitting really applying and walking the talk where you've hit your annual number by June or July, 3 years in a row. And these aren't sandbag numbers, always new records. So how does that happen? And in that, can you tie in your SEO, the change in SEO? What is the difference now in how you go to market from a digital marketing perspective?
You packed a lot of questions in there. Let me see if I can break that down for you.
Sorry.
It's all good. So starting with voice of customer, and this is where having somebody like Ann involved in an account, or whether they're inside or as an outside consultant like Ann works, to figure out who is that target audience, what's the messaging you're going to present to them, what are the challenges they have, the triggers. As much of that information as we can get, we want done ahead of time. We'll take that and help a client extend that information online. So once they know who their target is, then we're helping them figure out how do they find those folks on the internet. It could be SEO, it could be through paid advertising. We're exploring more and more of content marketing, getting actually in a little bit into the digital PR space that you're working in, which I do want to follow up with you later and talk a little bit more about that. But it's really figuring out where are the folks hanging out. I liked what Jimmy had to say when we talked last week of, it used to be very scattered. You'd have trade shows, you'd have networking events, you'd have one-on-one coffees. We're not doing that so much. So it has kind of become a little bit narrower and in some ways easier to reach folks. But it's noisier too. There's more and more resistance to getting that page one placement. So figuring out other techniques like what my colleague Jimmy is doing is really an interesting area. But if you do have folks who are looking for your product or service online, Google is a great place to be, especially if you can afford the time, money, and effort it's going to take to get up to page one rank. But just showing up isn't enough. You actually have to win the click. And there's not just 10 results on the page. There's more like 20 to 30 results that are going to show up on that page. So how do you get that click over to your website? And once you've won the click, how are you turning that into an actual opportunity? And that's where you start getting conversion rate optimization. And it's even more important to understand what the message is that is going to best resonate with your customer.
Good. I like that. We'll come back to some more of that in a second. Jimmy, real quick, not real quick, but as we move on to you is, and I apologize if this comes across wrong, but I'm just going to throw, I think I threw this out the other day, my pet peeve, and I know you do way more than LinkedIn, but if I can use that as kind of our caveat, our starting places, nothing irritates me more than somebody that asks me for a LinkedIn friend or connection. I connect and I barely hit the button and then they're like, hey, you want to buy a digital marketing plan? And they could be from the UK. I know we're in a worldwide marketplace now, but my response is almost always, no, I've got a client, and actually William, who does digital marketing. If I'm going to work, I'll work with somebody local. Do you still want to be connected? I mean, it's like the connection, and they don't even let you take a breath before they hit you with a sales pitch. That's not what you do, is it?
No.
I hope not, because I just set that up really poorly. Sorry.
No, yeah. So it's not what I do. There's really like 4 steps, and Don is like fired up right now because I took him through the 4 steps yesterday pretty thoroughly. But there's really 4 steps to doing it the right way. And the first thing is optimizing your profile in a way that, this first off, this breaks the rules of what everyone else will tell you. If you go on YouTube and like get tips for LinkedIn and how to optimize your profile, this breaks the rules. So I'm a huge rule breaker, but your profile doesn't need to look like a landing page. Because here's the thing, you send connection requests to people that you want to do business with. Typically, a lot of people do that on LinkedIn. Well, if you look like the 10 other people that sell the same thing you sell and that have already spammed them, sent them that 3-paragraph message of like, hey, auto-populated name, came across your profile, thought you looked really interesting, and 3 paragraphs later with the calendar link, right? They've already been hit up by people that sell what you sell and send them that garbage already. So you don't want to look like your competition. If you guys go to my profile, it's not going to say LinkedIn expert all over the place. It shows a lot about who I am as a human being. I want to get my prospects to see me, who I am as a human being versus as a vendor, which a lot of people act as vendors when they're on LinkedIn. I always say there's 3 levels of salesmanship. The bottom 90% are the vendors. the 91 to 99% are the experts, people that have been doing what they're doing for a very long time. And the top 1% act as the authority, right? So how can you position yourself as the authority? You want to look like a real human being. I always talk about authenticity on your profile and then authority on your profile. So if you guys go to my profile, you'll see the first picture is me in a crowd of people. I wish that this was in person because I would totally do a selfie with you guys and you guys would smile in the picture and I'd make that my new banner picture and you guys would be famous. Everyone would win. But you want to show some social proof on your profile if you can, and then show that you're a real human being. Showcase the things that you have in common with the people in your target market. That's my first step. The second step is just being very specific in who you're going to send connection requests to. That is part of the model that I teach people is to send the connection request. But when you do it, making sure that the people you're sending connection requests to are like your top prospects. Like this is a global channel. And so I always tell people in the span of things that you sell, the lower costing things being down here and the higher costing things being up here, target the people that can afford these things over here on LinkedIn, on the upper quartile, because you can make it your reality where the only people that are in your network are CEOs of companies with no less than 1,000, 5,000, or even 10,000 plus employees. That's so valuable. And people don't realize that these are people that are used to making 5, 6, and 7-figure decisions on a regular basis. And you can fill your pipeline with those kind of people. The third part is the opposite of what Tim is experiencing. And this is what we're all experiencing. Like you can raise your hand or type in the chat like me. Let me know if you get random messages from people you've never seen their name before, you've never seen their face before, and they send you a message trying to sell you something, right? I see some thumbs up. Yeah. So it happens to a lot of people. Happens to me all the time too as a business owner. And that's where the third step comes in. What I recommend you guys do is go to someone's content on their profile. You can view their profile. You can see all the content they've ever posted, engage with their content, like a few posts in a row. If it's Todd doing it, because he just told me hi, Todd likes 3 of my posts, it'll say Todd, showing up in my notifications. And now I'm like, Todd is like top of mind, even if I've never seen him before. If he comments on one of my posts and maybe asks me a question, we might even have dialogue in the comments on one of his posts before I ever send him a message. And he's like, oh yeah, that's the guy that we were just going back and forth in my post the other day, right? Even endorsing people for skills on LinkedIn is a beautiful thing. Like something that my team does is we'll go to like 50 different profiles every single day and endorse people in our target market. And that's 50 times a day that people that are my A+ prospects, I'm showing up in their notifications. My name and my face is showing up, and they're 2 clicks away from actually starting a conversation with me first. Right. So they get the notification. It says, Jimmy Coleman just endorsed you for this and this and this skill. Say thanks. It's the biggest button in that. It's the biggest call to action button in that notification. They click that button, the message is auto-populated, and they send me a thank you message. And now they did the weird step of sending. Someone just said they're sending me $20 on PayPal. That's funny. But then they send you the message first. And they took the weird step. So now the door is wide open, right? And then that follows it up with the fourth and final step, and then I'll shut up, is when you do send something, whether you're being super direct right out of the starting gate and asking for a meeting, or whether you're kind of playing the long game, make sure that what you send, it actually looks different from all the other garbage that they're getting in their inbox. I work with a lot of CEOs who get a lot of like long typed up messages, whether they're personalized or whether they were copied and pasted by a bot. And the problem is they all look the same still. So next time you go and send someone a message, I recommend you try one of 2 things. One, go open up the app on your phone, and when you pull up a message, you'll see in the right side, there's going to be a microphone icon. Hold it down, send a voice message. That'll probably be the first time ever that person has ever received a voice message.
That's
and
awesome.
You'll do something. My goal is like every time I reach out to someone, I give them like this reaction, like they're like, whoa, that's the first time I've seen something like that. That's really cool, right? Or it turns heads to some degree. And I get compliments all the time, even when I am being very direct, of people saying like, wow, that's the first voice message I've ever received. Super cool. Way to go. I've had one CEO tell me it's so hard to not come across spammy in the very first message. Like, well done. And then he lined up a call with us. That's the beauty of what we do, is that we get to show people how cool our process is. The other thing you can do is, especially if you're being super personalized, let's see if I have a note card nearby. So just because I'm like, Todd said he's going to send me $20,
now you got to earn it.
Yeah, now I got to really work it. So everyone say hi to Todd, right? Fractional CFO. All right. So when you send a message,
I love that.
how many more plugs to offer Todd here? So when you send a message, try a video message. Do a quick selfie video with one of these, and they'll open up the video and they'll see their name. Like, whoa, that's me. I'm Todd. And they'll have to open that. Yeah, it's going to stand out from all the other stuff that people are sending. So
that's great. That's
pause
excellent. And we'll come back to you in a second, because we got some questions on timing that we'll dive more into in the Q&A as we're seeing some stuff roll in. But look how quick and easy that was. Todd makes a quick comment, half-heartedly joking. He's really going to send you the money. Trust me. I know who he is. I'll find him. But that little thing just made a connection, which led into another thing. And are we bringing these together? So, Ann, let's go back around the rotation. No offense to McKinsey, they're a great company, but if you remember back in the 80s and 90s, McKinsey, people would pay them tons of money to come in and build a plan that would then go on the shelf and nobody did anything with. And one of the questions that I think Ellen or Don will get to in the Q&A part is, how long do these plans take before you start to see some type of a return or impact from them? Because let's be honest, we have a culture right now that wants immediacy. That we do it, we want it now. But that's not reality, right, Ann?
No, that's not. I don't think it's reality. In fact, I think I was talking to one of my clients earlier this week that we do a lot of business to business, and this one sells guardrail for highways, and we do a lot of the mundane business to business, but also some high tech as well. But and he was talking about how his business is excellent this year. If you want to know about what's going on in highways, his business is excellent, but he is afraid to invest in marketing, I think is it. And I finally had to say, it's the time, because you can do the foundations now, because he's actually run out of capacity. And I said, you're in a great situation. Now is the time to invest in marketing. And then when things turn for you, which they will, we about guarantee it over the next couple of years, there will be ups and there will be downs. It's the time to invest in some of that foundation stuff of making sure you understand your market, your different segments, what's going on in each of the segments. Thinking about, are you more likely to want someone like a Jimmy or SEO, or what is it going to be? And then later you can begin the implementation. So I think the foundation takes some time, some months, to sort of begin to figure all that out. And if you go on rules of thumb, which is this is the way it's always been, particularly in the last 6 months, those rules of thumbs are sort of out the window. So I think you've really got to listen, which I know in Sandler, Tim, that's a key. You've got to listen and think about which segments are up and which segments are down, and change your plans accordingly. So
great, thank you. That was perfect.
Tim, can I add on to what Ann is saying there?
Absolutely.
Wait,
can I interrupt 1 second? Then
Yep.
As you answer that, I also want to segue into the question I was being led in to ask you is, why you? There's there's a digital marketing person on every corner. Aren't they all the same? Or can I just buy some YouTube thing and follow this and do my own? So if you could do that and then lead into that, that would be great.
Sure. So I think one of the places that folks get tripped up on who are starting to execute marketing is thinking that it is a fast return. And there are some, but all the time you hear about the companies that are overnight successes. Then you look a little deeper, they've been doing this 5-10 years in order to become an overnight success. I've got a funny story I can tell about a prospect I talked to, wanted 300,000 visitors a month in a 6-month period because his competition had 10x that number. And he figured, 10%, that should be easy. That's for a longer story, longer time. But I think what Ann's getting at is that marketing is about planting seeds And it's not so much about where you are today, but where you want to be 6, 12, 24 months into the future. And there are things that can be done today. SEO, paid advertising, that's one of them. Actually, I talked to a lot of prospects, as you alluded to earlier, and I refer them other places. I refer them to social media if that's a more likely space for their customers to be hanging out. If they are not going to be able to invest enough into hiring an agency to run a program for them, I suggest they do it themselves. There's a great book called SEO for Growth that lays out the basics that even a business owner and marketers can understand. There is a lot of technical work that's involved in SEO, but there's also business work. So I think the place that you're going to find how you can sort the wheat from the chaff, because like you say, you can throw a rock and you're going to hit somebody who does digital marketing, is going to be around what results can they point to that they've created, and how well do they understand your target audience, so that they can help you get to where you're trying to go with the business.
And William, I mean, so again, I mean, like I told the panel when we were talking the other day, sometimes I'll open mouth, insert foot. I'm a sales guy, right? So how important is ROI and the return on the investment in the discussions you have with potential clients? Because traditionally I've heard like verbatim, oh no, we don't talk about ROIs. This is marketing. This is about building your presence. There's no return on that. The return is too soft or it's long-term.
In my conversations, I'd like to get there pretty quickly, Tim. There is a part of marketing that is brand awareness. In fact, I was involved in chat earlier talking to somebody who said they wanted brand awareness. I said, well, are you sure you want brand awareness or do you really want leads? Is there's brand marketing and then there's direct response marketing. And I put lead generation in that latter camp of direct response. So that's where we as an agency excel, is in generating leads, helping to track those leads from the marketing through the sales process. And Tim, I'd add, there's another part of the Venn diagram is the service side, because service and operations can actually upsell, retain, cross-sell within a company. I like to get into ROI very quickly. We talk about cost per lead, ROAS if we're doing paid advertising for e-commerce programs. So pretty quickly, we're looking at what's the return going to be here.
Okay, and I want to go to Jimmy in a second, but before I do that, I want to segue back to Ann real quick. Ann, are you able to, in your marketing and branding and PR, able to segment out any, qualify the leads, is a better way to say it. Because I see some people, they're like, I need leads. Do you need leads or do you need good leads? Are they going to be qualified? Are they, somebody just calling randomly? Do they know what they're getting? How do you do that?
Well, I think the best way to get qualified leads is to sort of define your best customer, what we call the best customer profile, which is an old concept, but I think it's very relevant today, which is you begin to think about, and I see Ian Farmer smiling because he was taught the same thing that I was, that you really got to look for your best customer profile, and you got to profile, and it may change by segment. So it may be different if, one segment versus another segment, but you really got to define it. Are they large companies, small companies? Do they have certain characteristics of decision makers? Do they have certain characteristics of revenue? But what is that best customer profile? And we just keep going back to it and hammering it and hammering it and hammering it. And that's the type of information, if you can give it to William or give it to Jimmy, that's really, really helpful to them. And as William said, and also where do they hang out? And I think that's very important, because you can get information today from so many different sources. And some people hang out in Twitter and some people hang out in LinkedIn. And I deal with a lot of old manufacturing industries as well as the high tech. But in the old manufacturing industries, there's a lot of skepticism of, well, we really don't need some of the social media. Well, that may be great today, but next year, there's a whole cadre of decision makers that are retiring. And where's the next crowd coming from and where do they hang out. So I think
Yeah.
you've really got to look at that best customer profile and keep refining it, keep thinking about it. And it's a topic that just sort of never goes away.
By the way, thank you for that. That's perfect. And so many great comments. I can't keep up with them. We'll get to those in a second. Andrew, love it. A true financial mind going, hey, ROI is important. You know, when we're doing these type of things, making sure what we're doing creates a result, but also setting the expectations, right? You know, the whole IT or garbage in, garbage out, you know, piggybacking on what you just said, Ann, the way that I think of it from a sales perspective is, you ever go to a meeting, somebody introduces themselves, tell you what they do, and you're like, what the heck do they do? I have no idea. If we can't define our message either verbally or in the advertising space, how will we find those good leads, right? Getting the message out and making sure it's cohesive. Pretty much in a nutshell. I mean, not to minimize what you just said, but how do we define who we are so people know? Is that close?
Well, the best customer profile is who's your best customer, and then you have to get into, okay, who's your competition, and then how do you differentiate yourself from your competition? And so and then you've got to, from there, then you've got to figure out, well, what position do you want to be versus your competition? So it's, you know, it's all sort of follows a path, I guess is the easiest way to say it,
Okay.
before you get into implementation, I believe.
So it builds. It's not just fragmented. We've got to have some synergy. But you know that what I would caution people against is figure it out, figure something out to start, make some mistakes, then get help when you need it, because we can be paralyzed where we do nothing and we're going to be so far behind the curve. Thanks, Ann. With that, I'm going to lead back to Jimmy, and Sean's mentioned something earlier when he was talking about the timeline to implementation to see a return. You know, Jimmy, when what you described, and I think you did a great job. So I don't think you did this, but I'm going to pretend you did, because some people are going to see that as, well, there's a 4-step process. I've got to just like posts. I've got to comment on them. Next thing you know, in 5 years, I'll have a relationship. So then maybe I can get a piece of business. What's the timeline? How can they, and I'm going to use you. I know you do more than just LinkedIn, as if LinkedIn isn't enough, but can you explain, you know, what's that process? Is it a 30-day? Is it a 90-day?
Yeah, so I mean, this process was developed because I needed to pay bills like this month. I didn't want to just like post content for 3 years and then become an influencer and then, you know, and then get my ROI eventually, right? So I needed to find a way to sort of play the numbers game, but do it in a stealthier way that wouldn't make the person on the receiving end feel like a number, right? And so that's the key to my process. And some easy answers to your question. And we have clients who a few weeks into us working with them, they'll, you know, we had one guy 3 weeks in, $300,000 sale, 5 weeks in, $200,000 sale. And what's cool about these clients that I'm mentioning, like these are people that weren't doing that on a regular basis prior to working with us too. So these are people that you don't know their names, and I didn't know their names before they were my client. So these are average Joes who are implementing this process, going after a market that is able to make decisions like that on a more frequent basis. And they're also opportunistic, you know, like winners find a way to win. And with all this stuff going on, the winners will always find a way to win. And so like my client who last week, he sells masks. Well, now he sells masks and he made a $200,000 sale. Before that, he had a brick and mortar cryotherapy business in Los Angeles of all places. You know, so like his business was non-existent pretty quickly when COVID happened. And then he pivoted, and now he's making more money than when, you know, when he had his cryotherapy business. Right. So, and he signed for Lead Baller, like pretty much right away. We were implementing the process. 5 weeks in, he has his biggest sale ever. So yeah, my strategy, the way I teach people is it comes from the place of like not having any money. So there's no ad spend usually. And it's also like, hey, I need results sooner rather than later. So that's not usually a concern for my clients.
Okay, good. I like that. Ian, great comment on people confusing the difference between prospect profiling and prospect qualification. profiling the right targets. And let's go to you. Do you mind differentiating that briefly? It's about 8:11. We've got about 4 minutes. We'll just roll through a couple quick hits here.
And what was the question again, Tim?
It was sometimes people confuse, Ian posted, people confuse prospect profiling from prospect qualification.
Well, you've got a profile, but then you've got to figure out, do they fit the profile? And so you've got to have a lot of the good questions, which I think Sandler, of course, does, but you've got to have the questions that makes you, understand whether this person is a qualified one or is not a qualified prospect, and figure out what their challenges are, so that you can qualify and figure out which are the ones that are the good ones for you. I'm not sure if that was what you were getting at, but.
No, yeah, that's what I was looking for. I just wanted to clarify that as Ian posted that and get that out there so it would help. William, so as I talk to people coming from my side, right, on the sales side, and you're coming from the marketing side, I hear so often, I don't need help with sales. I just need more leads. And then when I talk to people like you, I hear, look, I'm giving them, I need better leads is what they say. I need more leads and I need better leads. We're just not getting the quality and the quantity. If I had more leads, we would sell tons because my people are good. And when I talk to people like you, it's like, look, we're giving them good leads. They just need to learn how to close them, which is right. I don't want to give you any softballs. Don said, throw the hard ball, man. Come on.
No, that's a good one. It's tough. I think they're both right. And this is that, I think there can be unhealthy tension between sales and marketing. I think there can be healthy tension. And I think if done right, you can create a healthy tension between those two, where marketing's saying more. We want to just get more leads in. And sales does need to be doing exactly what Ann was talking about, of profiling and ensuring that these prospects are coming through are the right fit. And if you start finding there's a lot of chaff there, then we've got to go back to marketing and say, shore up, what are those questions that are going to determine whether they are sales qualified? So we're a HubSpot partner. I see a few others here on the call today. Good morning. And we're following the inbound methodology, which talks about leads, which I call kind of raw leads. You don't know what these people want. To marketing qualified, which indicates, hey, they're probably looking for a service like this, to sales qualified. And that's where the questions that Ann and folks like you, Tim, and Ian could help build to ensure that there's agreement as to what goes over to the sales team.
Good. And so with that, we're at 8:15, so I'm going to hand over the Q&A here a little bit, but great comment, Cassandra. Marketing brings them to the door. Sales gets them to stay. I guess my point there is, can we be confident enough to be have intellectual humility, which to me, that means we reach out for help that we need, but we know what we need and we know what we're not good at. And we trust the people that we bring in for those things versus trying to do it all ourselves, because we've been successful doing it ourselves. As we lead into the Q&A questions and spots, I want to start with one that I know one of my clients has asked, and it'll lead us into Jimmy. So here's the scenario, Jimmy, and if you could help me define this, because I know there's going to be more people on here. Somebody's new in their industry, they're new in their business, they know their products, and all of a sudden they get in there, they're getting trained, and COVID hits. Now they can't go out and build their reputation. They can't build, hypothetically, right? They can't make contact. The people are sick of email. I just had a talk with a company yesterday where they're calling. Then they send email after email, and people are getting inundated. What do they do? Because you just said you needed to put, food on the table, which means you can't wait for 6 to, this isn't 4 to 8 weeks anymore, right?
Love it.
We're doing this virtual thing.
No, that's awesome. And mention this, and I'll try to say it very simply too. It's just, who's the target and where do they congregate? And it can get more complex beyond that. I'm sure Ann has a lot of questions about who the target is. Like if they were a flavor of ice cream, what kind of flavor ice cream would they be? And mint chocolate chip, but they,
Wait, did you just say you're mint chocolate chip?
Oh, 100%.
Don, we're recording this, right? Okay, good. Keep going. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
If you want a meeting with me, somehow send me refrigerated ice cream, right? But no, so I think there's a lot of cool ways to get innovative. Something that we tested out too, like you can all do this on LinkedIn as well, is we created a virtual event, kind of like how we're doing a virtual event right now. And I just made this up. I called it Sales VP Hacks. My avatar is mostly VPs of sales. And so we just gave it a name. We just called this event Sales VP Hacks. And then I said, how to get a book call on LinkedIn every day. And then I created an event. I created it on Monday, and then the event was on Friday. And then on LinkedIn, I just started sending invites to people to this 1-hour session of how to get a book call every day on LinkedIn, which people are trying to figure that out right now because what they were doing before isn't really a thing they can do anymore. So building a community for the people that you sell to is a really great idea, where you just give them a ton of value. The call to action at the end is like, hey, if you need help implementing this or whatever, then you can give me a call here. But yeah, that's one of the things that we've tried, that we need like a quick experiment. Create an event for the people where you add tons of value. Everyone's looking for a hero right now. There's sometimes when times are good, people don't need your help as much. But right now, times are not as good. So when you can be the person that rises up as the hero, like new heroes are emerging, and you just offer more value than everyone else in the marketplace, you will win. It is a wonderful time to be the new guy on the block, because everything gets shaken up. This is where the big companies, some of them go away forever, and new brands, new companies emerge, and there's tons of examples of that. So there is no better time than now to be that person, add more value than everyone else that sells what you sell to your target audience, and you will win.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you for doing that. With that, I want to hand it off to Ellen. I think Ellen and Don, Ellen, you were going to do some of the Q&A off of the chat.
Yep, I'm on it. And thank you so much, all four. That this has just been awesome. And Jimmy, what a way to conclude, right? The speaking part is, an organization that's creating value is always going to thrive. Mm-hmm. And when that's where you're starting from, you can weather the storm. So one of the questions that I'm going to start with, Jimmy, if I could, that came in was, when I'm looking at my LinkedIn, somebody else's LinkedIn, and I've got over 500 contacts, how do I find the contacts that I want? And I think it was Dennis Park who raised that question. So if you want to unmute yourself, and if you have any questions, Jimmy, for him to clarify, that was the question that came through. Is how to find those people? Well, what do you do? Do I scroll through 500 names is what it looked like. He said, no one wants to scroll through a bunch of contacts. Yeah. What alternatives do I have to find contacts? And there were some people who offered different ideas, but I figured we would ask the pros. No, thank you. Yeah. So I just did a training on this last night. Upgrade to Sales Navigator. Everyone do it. You get a 30-day free trial. It's $80 a month after that. And I know, like, I can get into how that $80 will relate to $100,000 later on if you guys want to track the ROI, but, upgrade to Sales Navigator. And here's, that was just for Andrew Tucker, by the way, the ROI part. Sorry, Andrew, but, ROI is always an issue, right? Always. It totally is. Great. Yeah. And you know what I love? I'm sorry, I'm taking you off track. Is the panel is not afraid to address that. They're not running away. They're saying, no, this is important. Mm-hmm. We're going to get something back. Yes. You just have to be aware of it and follow it. Don't give up. Yeah. Right? Sorry, Jimmy. Yeah. And then when it comes to Sales Navigator, a few tricks that you can use is always using the job title. One of the questions I always ask is who makes the decision to buy what you sell? Right. And so being very specific with that job title, I just found out a job title for the first time last night. It's Chief Information Security Officer, which is such a rare job title. I loved how specific it was, because the only people that are going to show up are like my client's dream prospects. So we discovered that last night when I was helping a client.
But yeah, and we also, there's a company called Big Ass Fans, if you guys have ever heard of them. And they sell industrial fans. So they're looking for people that are in charge of very large buildings. And we found plant manager or facilities managers, things like that, things that are very specific to the job title. And we found those people. But then we also went to company size. So Matrix said she sold it. That's awesome. So we also go to company size. So you can make sure that these companies have big enough pockets to buy what you sell. And you can make sure that the companies you're talking to are 1,000 people plus, or something that I like to do is I like finding fast growing companies. And so I go to like the 11 to 50 range or the 50 to 200, because not a lot of companies stay there. They usually either go below or above that. And so I really like using that a little bit. You can also do a filter to make sure that you talk to people that are only the people that have posted something on LinkedIn in the last 30 days. So that way you're actually talking to the most active group of people who are going to see your connection request the soonest, see your message the soonest, and take action the soonest. And there's some other cool tricks that a lot of people don't know of. And I'll wrap up with this. You can make sure that the companies you're talking to have a certain revenue size when you do account filters. You can make sure, all right, this is really cool. You can make sure that you're only talking to companies that have grown this year between 10 and like 47%, if that's what you want to do. You can only target companies that are growing with their company headcount. So there's just a lot of really cool things you can do on Sales Navigator that makes it worth the $80.
All right, now I'm going to have to go back and do that again. Ellen, can I interrupt for 1 second? I want to go.
Am I going to stop you if I said no?
Yeah, right. I've already started, right? It's those Tim questions. I want to tie something in back to the last speaker event that she brought up, and maybe bring it up probably with Ann. You know, Ann, we're hearing more and more about confirmation bias. One of my new favorite memes I saw on that social media platform out there was, people don't want to hear your opinion. They want to hear their opinion coming out of your mouth. And we're seeing more and more of that as we get into this virtual world, and people aren't as open to hearing opposing dialogue. And I think it's a lost art. So can you address just briefly confirmation bias in a marketing plan? People have thoughts, they have beliefs, but those are changing. How do you address that from a marketing perspective?
You got to listen. I think you've got to listen and understand what their challenges are and figure those out, and then respond in an appropriate fashion. So
that's great and succinct. I love that. I mean, it is almost that simple. Listen, don't negate them, right?
Oh no, you
Too
can't.
often we're like, no, this is what we need to do. People just want to be heard, and then listen to them, and then take them down that path that's honest with integrity. I think Jimmy, you've all hit on that.
Well, but
sorry, Ellen.
And you're back to the saying of perception is reality, because much of the time when we go out and get a concentrated bunch of market feedback, which we think is really valuable, and we come back and the client says, no, that's not, that's not the reality. My delivery is faster than competition. Well, their perception is it's not. So that really is the reality. So then we can do something with it. So
if I may, you just hit a hot button. So, and I'm going to disagree a little bit here with respect. I contend that perception is not reality, that perception is perceived reality, but that doesn't mean we don't have to deal with it. So I'm agreeing with you, and I'm just mincing words, right? But I don't think we as business owners, entrepreneurs, business development professionals can accept perceptions as reality, but it doesn't mean we negate it or ignore it. Fair?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Because we have to deal with it. If that's their perception, it's their reality. We need to deal with it. It's just how do we then address it versus ignoring it? But I don't think we want to cave. We have to have enough intestinal fortitude to professionally stand up to that. Fair? I mean, that's kind of the way I see it.
No, but you got to know the difference between the perception and the reality. So.
Absolutely. That was excellent. Thank you. Sorry, Ellen, back to you.
Oh, no. This is, and you're asking a lot of the questions that are coming up. One of the other things, and I'm going to direct this to William as you're taking a sip of coffee. So, is what direction is SEO heading is the question.
Wow. That's a good one.
Yep, it is. And we all want to know that answer. I think the big place we're looking at right now, of course, is the voice SEO, the zero position, which is that immediate answer that Google is giving if you ask a question. How do we get our clients positioned for that? That's a challenging one. Those are the type that come back oftentimes if you ask your Siri or Amazon device at the house, to answer a simple question. Some things that we're doing around that are building out more FAQs, building out more knowledge bases that try to capture these types of questions that users are typing in to search.
Cool. Great. Hey, Ellen, I got a new concept for another future talk for Don. Maybe we should do one on the conspiracy theories behind business development. Just kidding.
Ooh.
Let's not do that. That would be so ugly so fast. We would all be talking over each other.
And don't go ugly, because this has been spectacular.
Come on, do you know me? I can't hide from it.
I happen to know Tim and William particularly well, and Ann and Jimmy, you have just been spectacular, and I look forward to getting to know you personally. But this has just been so wonderful, and we are nothing if not diligent on our time. So I want to begin to wrap up. I do want to acknowledge, number one, how wonderfully, Tim, you tied in past speakers. And just a pitch for CBEX speaking events. We do this monthly, and we believe we're addressing issues for business owners. And this is what we do, is we hopefully tie all of these pieces in together. And today, where we thought we were talking about business development in a virtual space, what we really did, thanks to Tim's fantastic moderating, was we tied in sales and marketing, right? Because we can't look at either without looking at the whole. And for the financial people out there, we addressed ROI. Yeah. So these are real concerns, and I think the way this was handled today was just really just spectacular. And if I were in the room, I'd be giving you a standing ovation. I'm going to give you a standing ovation. You guys were really terrific. For the folks online, what I would welcome you to join us in August. I thought we had a slide. We may have a slide for our August.
September.
I'm sorry, it is August. For our September speaker, William, would you like to share our speaker event? We mentioned it at the beginning, but certainly put it on people's calendars.
Yeah, so Anna Bevan Gravely from North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation, based up in Raleigh, is going to be joining us. As Don mentioned, we had Joe Stewart here to recap the 2016 election. This time we're going to do a preview of the 2020 election, and these folks have so much data that they bring to the table. It's just going to be a fascinating conversation. They do look at this from what the business impacts are, and from what we're hearing from Anna, there's some big elections taking place that we may not be paying close attention to because of all the noise in the headlines that's going on. So if you want to come and get an education about this upcoming election cycle, I think this will be time well spent.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Good. And I just want, Ellen, real quick, I want to commend the panel. One of the discussions we had early on as we were prepping was, as in my world, we teach people not to give away your value for free, but to be of service, and how humble and confident they were to say, we're good. We're just going to open the vault and give away solid information that hopefully everybody can get something they can use to grow their business after just an hour, 45 minutes. So I think they did that really well. There's information there that out of there, we should all be able to find a pearl. So kudos to the panel and to everybody. The comments were phenomenal. So thank you.
And William, the date is September 24th.
September 24th.
And Jimmy's gotten his $20. He just held it up.
Go.
I'm going to be using the voice, and I'm going to be using those little cards. I'm going to write stuff, and we got it. We're fine. See, look at this. The level of integrity and follow through with these CBEX events, it's phenomenal.
Jimmy Coleman, Ann Mayfield, William McKee, and our very favorite Tim Ledwine. Thank you
And
so much.
our speakers
That was
panel,
fantastic.
the people that design and pick the topics and the speakers, kudos to you guys for bringing a great group together again. Thank
We
you.
are really, really excited. And we will have on, we will send out something that shows how to access the recording. I would not have the slightest clue to tell you right this second, but because I am not one of those tech people, but we will get that out to everybody later on today. Or
I have a
later.
feeling we're going to market that somehow and post it on social media and our website and some other marketing concepts.
If we took the advice of this esteemed panel, then we certainly would. We are at 8:32 and I promised to get us out. So
Thanks,
you.
Alan.
If you want to stick around for a few minutes, that's great. But thank you everybody for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and knock 'em dead.
Uh-huh.
You guys.
Thanks,
Jimmy. Good. Nice, Todd. Way to send it already. I love it.
Oh my gosh, Todd.
That was classic.
Of course. Of course.
Well, you kind of put me on the spot there, Tim, where I
Hey.
follow through. That was awesome.
You make a commitment online with 100 people. You got to follow through.
Yeah.
That was good.
Awesome.
Just,
Thanks,
I'd
Todd.
be amazed if Todd didn't put an extra digit on that $20.
Well, let's not get carried away. He's a
He
CFO.
is a CFO.
Come on, he's a finance guy. You know, Don, we're not adding digits and zeros behind. We'll put them in front, but not behind.
Well, sales guys, they'll put him behind.
Ellen, that was excellent. Thank you, guys. I mean, some of these comments, the interaction was phenomenal today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great job, guys. Great job.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Some,
Emery.
Don, if you'll let us know the final attendees numbers, I couldn't get that figured out in the.
52? 52 is what I saw.
okay.
I saw it over 60 at one point.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
yeah, I had 62 at one point also.
Okay. Okay, good.
Because I think
Good.
we had like 120 signed up, if I estimated my numbers right yesterday with the
Yep.
thing that Ginny sent out.
Yep.
So being able to get this and post it and share it and, capitalize on take advantage of the energy
Yeah.
that we had in the room was good. So, Don, if we can get with Lena and Cassandra on that, and if you have any questions, reach out to me.
I've got the recording. I'll just send it out to Lena. She'll post it. That's easy to do.
Cool. Hey, Ben.
Hey guys,
Ben
my
Powell,
Zoom
you're
bombing.
still on the phone. There
Hey,
you
Ben.
are.
Hey, so I am Zoom bombing, and I just want to say hello from Charleston.
I
Nice.
love it. I love
It
it.
is-
How are you?
look,
Wish we
great.
were there.
Yeah, well, me there. There'll be a time for that, I'm sure. But it was phenomenal to be able to join in any CBEX session, and the first virtual, but to be a part of that and have as someone remotely in another city is awesome. So I'm really interested to see how that might be an option going forward when things kind of resume and more in person.
So I have this for
the
you,
panel
Ben,
was
just so
amazing.
you would remember what it looks
right.
like.
That's right.
I loved it. And I was like, do you have like a different Zoom background for like each time of day, Tim? Because it was like a nice
Yeah,
kind of
that is perfect.
sunrise.
Oh, dude, now you got my
Oh, so-
OCD going. I got to do that.
Okay. Yeah. No,
Don,
but,
stop the recording.
Don, did you stop the recording yet?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. Hold
Mina
on.
can trim that.
Yeah, we need to trim that.
yeah, sorry. Anyway,
Right.
great to see you guys. Hope everyone's well.
Hey, Emery, thank you
Good to
guys.
hear.
Good to see you.
Thanks,
Thanks so
everybody.
much for joining in, Ben. It's good to see you.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm
great.
still on the list. Take care.
All right. I think, are we
All right,
down to
I'm
just
out.
the four of
Yeah.
us?
I think we're done.